I get the great honor and privilege to introduce a woman who embodies all three words on today's program: Power Woman Summit. That's right. And although, if you know Diana Nyad, well, 3 words is really never enough for her, right? She's laughing because 3 words is never enough for Diana because she talks a lot. I mean, a lot. She talks a lot. I mean, not because she meanders or she can't find the right expression. That's right, the right expression. She can articulate all of her thoughts. It's just the opposite. She greets life with big, open, voracious arms and a joyful, brilliant mind. She is disarmingly curious. She's full of ideas. She's full of heart and joy. And before you know it, she has charmed you into remembering that life is beautiful and that there's only so much time to dream and to make those dreams happen. So our film, Nyad, tells the story of Diana's great heroic feat. She swam 110 miles in the open ocean from Cuba to Florida without a shark tank. Probably nobody, well, definitely nobody has ever done that before or since, and they probably never will. And many of you might remember that day of her actual triumph. We all watched it on TV, the news. She emerged from the sea, just monstrously swollen and shaking and barely able to stand after braving the impossible currents, the deadly jellyfish, the hallucinations for 53 hours of uninterrupted swimming. Those images of Diana are seared into my brain. A 64-year-old woman emerging from the surf, guided by Bonnie, her best friend in the world, and her trainer on the swim. And Diana says, "Don't touch me." And Bonnie says, "Don't touch her, she'll be disqualified." Diana, 2 ankles out of the water. "Come on, you can do it." And then they finally, that hug, the best hug in the world. And Diana made it after dreaming that dream for 35 years, failing 5 times. And unsurprisingly, amid the emotion of that moment, Diana did manage to say 3 things to the waiting cameras. Oh yeah, I told you, she does not miss an opportunity to talk, no matter how many jellyfish stings. So she said, 1, never give up. 2, you're never too old to chase your dreams. And 3, you may think that swimming is a solitary sport, but it takes a team. I hope I got that right. Did I get that right? Yeah. So the reason that Diana is one of the most inspirational people I have ever met isn't because she made that swim. It's because she failed so many times, over and over again, for years on end. That kind of perseverance and mental toughness, it doesn't always look pretty. And sometimes it looks like madness, like stubbornness or selfishness, delusions of grandeur even. You see, the failures were the real journey for Diana. It was her reckoning with her own demons, her past, her shames. She was prepared to die trying and to calmly accept nature's will for her. And by the last swim, she understood that she didn't have to be alone fighting anymore. She was loved and could finally say yes to whatever happened. So that is the flip side to sheer will. It's that it only achieves transcendence alongside a kind of acceptance. Accepting the fragility of being human and being at peace with that. And that, to me, is inspirational. I heard Diana's voice before I met her for the first time. It was at an NPR studio almost 20 years ago. Diana was filling in for a host on a very serious talk show. I was in the next studio doing research for The Brave One. And that voice came over the speakers, and it just got me. It was so clear and so bright and articulate, infectious, piercing, unforgettable. And within minutes of meeting me, she flitted onto so many topics that my head was spinning. She remembered every fact about history, art, politics. She managed to weave in her world travels while throwing out a whole speech in perfect French. And I thought, who is this kooky college professor? And then I looked her up and I understood who I was dealing with. And I kept running into her at these Christmas parties and barbecues as the years rolled on. But once I met Bonnie and I witnessed their kind of honeymooner-style friendship, their banter fest and the quirky asides. I knew I would love these two forever. So, of course, years later, I couldn't pass up the opportunity to be a small part of bringing their story to the screen. Annette Bening, my Nyad partner in crime, wishes she could be here today to join me in the kvelling. We both feel so blessed to tell Diana's heroic and sometimes anti-heroic story, to have been able to spend time with Diana and Bonnie, who have become dear, dear friends. It's really hard to express the warmth I have for this team, the respect, the love. Diana dreamed the dream. Bonnie made it happen. Diana swam the swim. Bonnie kept her safe. These two parallel lives joined in one. And just like the tattoo that they share that says Inshin Denshin, one mind, one heart. And of course, one is going to get up here and do all the talking, and the other one, if she was here, would just break out the hook if it goes on too long. So that's their way, because that's what friends do. So for ladies like us, of a certain age, who grew up in our time, where participation in the world required compartmentalizing ourselves, we understood that our friends were our family. And they were our true family. And I feel so blessed to consider Diana one of mine. So without further ado, it's my pleasure to introduce a hero, an inspiration to us all, yes, but much more than that, let me introduce to you a truly good woman, my friend, Diana Nyad. Yeah.
That's too much. That's too much. Too much. Thank you, sweetheart.
A pleasure.
Jodie Foster. Thank you. Thank you, Jodie, so much. Before this film was ever a reality, there was no script, there was no Netflix yet. Andrew Lazar, who is the executive producer, and Bonnie and I would sit around, as with most films do, and you sort of fantasize about casting. But the truth is here, we didn't make a list. We didn't make a list for my character, and we didn't make a list for Bonnie's character. There was one name, Annette Bening, and there was one name, Jodie Foster. And after there was a script, and there was Netflix, and Chai Vesarelli and Jimmy Chin were directing, and they were quite on their way, Andrew Lazar called me one day, and I got Bonnie with me, and he said, "Are you sitting down?" And we thought, okay, they canceled the whole thing. He said, "Annette Bening's in." And we said, "What the hell are you talking about? The Annette Bening?" And 24 hours later, he called and said, "Sit down again." And we thought, okay, she canceled. She already dropped out. 24 hours later, and he said, "No, Jodie Foster's in." And we said, "What the fuck are you talking about?" So can you even imagine how Bonnie and I feel to have these two pedigreed, wonderfully smart, grounded, non-star, the biggest stars, and they don't act like stars, human beings become our friends and play us and give tribute to us in this movie. I've had a number of honors in my life, but nothing has ever been this big. Annette plays this role with a tour de force passion of relentless, fierce, unapologetic persistence. And people are responding. Millions of people are responding all over the world. Most of them saying, "I only wish I had that kind of resilience. I only wish I would pursue something in my life in that fierce way." And Jodie, where are you? How will I ever thank you for what you brought? You brought this testament as who wouldn't want a friend like Bonnie? You brought a testament with your talent, and you drilled down to express what Bonnie and I are to each other after 44 years. I'll never forget you for it, and the movie is equally about that friendship as it is about my swimming. Thank you, my friend. Not to mention the fact that the movie is named after my name. Bonnie and I actually drive to the billboards around town over and over, and we get out and stand and we look up at it and say, can you believe this shit? You know, our names and our faces are on giant billboards. And just to share with you, when I was 5 years old, my colorful, histrionic Greek father, buzzing Z's and rolling R's, called me into the den, and he had big Webster's unabridged dictionary open. He had his hands resting on the pages, tears standing in his eyes, which was often the case, and he yelled to me, "Darling, you are coming here? I have been waiting for this day for you to turn 5. Because today, darling, you are going to understand the most important thing I will ever tell you. Come here, darling. Your name, my name, the name of my Greek people, it is in the black and white, in the bold, authentic book, the dictionary. Darling, you will go to your little preschool tomorrow, eh? Yeah? You will ask your little friends, is their name in the dictionary? Yeah, they will tell you, no, you are the only one. Come here, darling. I'm going to read for you. Nyad. In Greek mythology, my people, the nymphs that swam in the lake, river, ocean, and fountain to protect for the gods. Definition number 2, this is the modern one for you, darling. Nyad. Girl or woman, champion, swimmer. Oh my God, this is your destiny, darling. Well, I didn't know what destiny was. I was only 5. But the word I heard that day was champion. And I started walking around with my shoulders just a little bit higher. It wasn't too long after that, in elementary school, I had a geography teacher who was an ex-Olympic swimmer. And he said that any kid who came out for the swim team would get an A in geography. And I've learned a lot of athletes start their careers this way. I was at the pool the next day, swimming up and down. He wanted to see what everybody, what their talents were. And I stopped in this lane over here, and he was standing over the lane, and he yelled down, "Hey, kid, you, what's your name again?" And I yelled up, "Nyad." He said, "Nyad? You're going to be the best swimmer in the world if you want to work that hard." Well, it turned out I did want to work that hard. Right at that early age, I started getting up at 4:30 in the morning, every morning, 365 days a year, never an alarm clock needed. Started doing 1,000 sit-ups every night, elbow to knee every time, never 999. And by the age of 9, I was a little swimmer. And that coach, by the way, if you've seen the movie, that very coach who believed in me was the coach who became my sexual abuser all through high school. I never thought in my life, even as a young person, that I could be silenced into shame. But silenced I was. And you all know the epidemic. I bet you anything, many of you here sitting today have gone through something similar. And this film, I give Chai and Jimmy credit. It's not an easy subject to take on. And I thought they did it with poise and with gripping reality, and I'm very proud about the way they handled this tender subject in the movie. Age 9, little swimmer, Fort Lauderdale, Florida, the ocean right there. The Cuban Revolution broke, and literally overnight, thousands of Cubans flooded into my hometown. All of a sudden, we're dancing salsa in their backyards. We're flying the Cuban flag. We're eating Cuban food. And all of a sudden, that island, my parents had danced salsa in the Hotel Nacional as I was a kid. And now, that island, right off our shores, is suddenly forbidden. And we, I dare say the world round, became enchanted with this forbidden island, with the colonial pastel architecture and the old American 50s cars, the Buena Vista Social Club, all of it. But we can't go there anymore, and they can't come here anymore. And one day I was standing on the beach, age 9, with my mother, and I was looking, frustrated. And I said, Mom, I know Cuba's right out here, but I can't see it. Where is it? She said, well, it's just over the horizon, just maybe this way. It's just over the horizon, Havana. As a matter of fact, it's so close, really, that you little champion swimmer, you could actually swim there. Swim there? So people say, as Jodie just did, that I chased this dream for 35 years because I tried it first at age 28, finished it finally at age 64. But the truth is, it goes all the way back to age 9. Age 11, I was sitting at our little elementary school graduation with my mom. I had my patent leather shoes on, and the principal came to me quietly and said, Diana, Jimmy, he was the student speaker, Jimmy is in the bathroom violently vomiting. He is so scared, he can't get off his knees in front of the toilet. Could you say a few words? And my mom grabbed me and said, don't you dare, you didn't prepare anything. All the parents, all the coaches and teachers are here, all your classmates, you're gonna make a fool of yourself. And I turned back to him and said, well, what were you thinking, like 5 minutes, 7 minutes, And he said, it doesn't matter. We need a student speaker. Will you do something? So I honestly don't remember that speech, but my mother, until she died, dors bien, maman, my mother recounted all her life how I guess I got up and said, okay, we're 11. So, we can give ourselves a break. Let's say we've been doing the best we can. But the truth is, if we took on average all of our grandparents' age, we only have about 70 years to live. And we've got to get with it. We've got to become doctors. We've got to help people. We've got to learn all the languages and travel the world and solve poverty. We've got to be everything we can be. Now come on, let's get with it. And that night, I went home, and my mother said, number one, I will never talk you out of public speaking again. And number two, your father thinks your destiny is to be a swimmer. I don't. After today, I think your destiny is to inspire people to reach down to whatever potential they can pursue. And this movie, and my life actually, sounds a lot like swimming. There's a lot of swimming in this movie. There's a lot of vocabulary of swimming in my life. But the truth is, the people that we hear from, the people who have responded to my life story and this swim, have been people who are not swimmers mainly. They're not even athletes. They're people who are fighting cancer, who are raising a disabled child, who have put that novel away because they don't have time or belief in it. And they find that my life story and the story that this movie conveys is helping them rise up and do all they can do and be all they can be. And how much more could something mean to a person, to both Bonnie and myself? I am 74 now, and that swim was 10 years ago. And I honestly don't want to live out the Sunset Boulevard scenario, where I sit around eating bonbons and watching the Cuba footage and even watching this movie for the rest of my life. I've got other dreams to pursue. And I look myself in the mirror lately because this is exactly the phrase that age 60 got me churning again. I had been a sports commentator and NPR columnist for 30 years, never complained about it, following the best in the world, pursue their excellence. But I started to feel like a spectator. And I went rummaging around my office for a poem I had read once. I don't know about you, I personally don't understand any poetry. At the end of every poem I've ever read, I've said, why? Well, if they used a couple of more verbs, maybe I could understand it. But this, Mary Oliver, The Summer Day, was a poem that had meant something to it, and I knew at 60 I needed it. And today, at 74, I need it again. And maybe you know those last two lines. So I say them to you today. Look at all of you successful people in this industry. Even Jodie, I say it to you, Jodie. Tell me, what is it you plan to do with your one wild and precious life? Thanks for listening.